How do you win on LinkedIn?
Make sure you understand the rule book. It's all in front of you. Like, it's not written down, but it's not a secret either.
One is trying to bring people in. One is actually giving them a reason to stay.
Understand the game that you're playing when you're trying to go viral and when you're trying to build authority.
Okay, I bring my video from Instagram across to LinkedIn, but then I also make sure I hit that, kind of goal word count.
But the truth is, like, people buy from people. You just will not get that same level of engagement.
You don't have that luxury on other platforms necessarily, unless you're to dig into your followers.
Yeah. You don't need a moderator. You've got 10,000 moderators and they will make it known. I've got some good data, interesting data, and I want you to guess the platform. 1 billion global users, so a lot.
Yeah.
$5 billion ad platform, huge amount. Data suggesting 20% positive ROI. So can you guess what platform it is though?
1 billion. It's got to be a TikTok or something like that, right?
It's LinkedIn.
Oh my goodness.
And a lot of people are sleeping on it still. The interesting part with it, I think the connotation around LinkedIn is like, it's a business platform. It's a B2B play, right? And it still kind of is. And that's honestly where you can leverage it the most. But the personal side is what unlocks the success metrics there. So like, for example, and we'll get into many of these sort of problem areas and where people are going wrong, and we can kind of demystify all of that. But one of them, just to illustrate the point, is that people are still often looking at it as like, I will post from my business account, right? But the reality is the real unlock is the personal brand side of it, right? Like, we're seeing it on other social platforms, but it makes sense in real life too. People buy from people. It's why reviews are so powerful, right? And so what we're seeing now on LinkedIn with this huge surge in posting volume, I think it's 41% more posts this year than last year, just to show you how much more people are even engaging on this platform right now.
It's interesting. It is. I mean, I have so many questions, and I know you've dug pretty deep into it, so I'm going to ask them all today. But truly, I think it's an interesting one because it does ride that fine balance, as you're saying, of it originated as a business platform. It's not moving in the direction of other platforms, but it's taking some bits, right? In terms of engagement, in terms of varying formats that have now found their place on LinkedIn, including video, including things like infographics, carousels, and whatnot, that it does just seem like this kind of magic sauce right now.
Yeah, and I think the other beauty of it is that they're in their own blue ocean, to be honest with you, because no other platform that I can think of is looked at in the same way as LinkedIn. Like, it really is it's in its own world, its own space, which is so powerful, because a lot of people will be like, are you on TikTok or do you use Instagram? Almost interchangeably, right? Like, do you watch your scroll stopping videos on that platform or that platform? Because it's kind of the same.
It's almost an age thing that then differentiates which is your go-to. I
would even argue that's becoming a little bit of a myth now. I've got 40-year-old friends that like stay up at night scrolling TikTok, So I think these other platforms are playing a very similar game, but LinkedIn is almost in its own space, but able to kind of cherry pick the things that can enhance that experience even more. And so, like, no other platform that I can think of would you lean into a 1,000 to 2,000 word breakdown of a post, right? Like, even myself, I've had multiple pieces of content go millions of impressions, millions on LinkedIn. And often I am still repurposing the content that I would have posted on Instagram. But even then, I've got to make it platform friendly. So I'll take my script and then I'll build a 1,500 word breakdown in LinkedIn format ways to accompany that video. And I've done that multiple times. And as I said, I've got multiple videos with over 1 million impressions. And the interesting part is that I have posts on LinkedIn that have the CMO of Chamberlain Coffee engaging on my post, the CMO of Pinterest engaging on my post. I don't have that on Instagram, right?
Would be harder to get on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly.
So would you say the reason for doing that, the reason for posting this lengthy essay that just would not have its place on Instagram, is that because the SEO is just you know, the platform is wired in that way that it's still going to kind of push these, I guess, denser, potentially more high value posts to the right audience based on the keywords coming up in that original script?
That's a great question. And there is part of that. I think also part of it is just the native culture ingrained in that community. And so when you come to any new environment, the people that are already there have this protective culture that pre-exists and predates your arrival.
Well, it started with B2B marketers, didn't it?
Exactly, which was very text-based and very info-based, to be honest with you, like information value. Even the way that people engage on the post, there's a lot of memes around it now in terms of like Instagram and TikTok memes that kind of jab at LinkedIn, because it's this very like glazing community of like, fantastic value, Sam, thank you so much. And it is funny at times, and it's like, yes, thank you, I really put my thinking cap on for this one. And but that again is the culture of the community, and there's a magic to that if you conform. And I think again, I talk about this a lot in terms of like, play by the rules of the game. Like it's don't hate the player, hate the game at all times on social media. Understand the game that you're playing when you're trying to go viral. Understand the game that you're playing when you're trying to build authority. You're not going to just like create your own rule book. Like that you're no.
I think there's a balance you need to find though, because like, I almost want to ask, where does that come from? Because there are a lot of Instagram reels and TikToks about how you'll see someone on their Instagram and it'll be the real version of them, whether that's a bit bullish or, you know, a bit of their lifestyle, maybe they're partying a bit, whatever it is. And then you go over to LinkedIn and you get this, hi Sam.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's polarizing that both platforms are public. So you can see two sides of this person. Why is it that is welcomed, is normalized?
Yeah, it's so true. I honestly think it's culture. I really, really do. Because the reality is, if you are on LinkedIn, you're there probably because you're a professional in some way, shape or form. You're not just like doom scrolling LinkedIn as like a just pure like brain rot entertainment factor. You might be there for that reason, but you yourself are still a professional because you're consuming that type of content. If you were truly just a brain rot consumer, you would be in the TikTok FY, you know, For You page. You would be in the Instagram vault. But I think that it's the culture of the people that are on there that creates these natural rule books that everybody has to play by. Because if you suddenly are the person that breaks that convention, that community attacks. And it's like any good community. They become self-regulating. And we see it in Facebook groups all the time, where there's a community that are built around a common message or signal, and someone comes in and tries to break the rules. You don't need a moderator. You've got 10,000 moderators and they will make it known.
Yes, absolutely.
And so in this instance, you've got 1 billion self-regulating moderators on your platform. And again, you either play by the rules or you will get attacked, or you will get removed, or you will get banned. Like something is going to happen. You're not going to get the engagement. You're going to be shunned. Like whatever it is, the natural order of the culture, and cultures shift ever so slightly. But I really do feel like on LinkedIn, that's what it kind of comes to. And so the importance here is conforming to that rule book and that playbook. Come with value, or don't show up and post at all. And you'll see that in posts. I'll see it even in mine. The interesting ones of marketing breakdowns that people wouldn't have thought of, or maybe is a little bit unusual, but still really informative and educational, pop off. And when I've done like arguably a lazy post and I look at it in hindsight and I could have really put a more info-based spin on that, or
like
a unique spin.
There wasn't a major lesson or takeaway.
Yeah. And the community will let you know. The algorithm will let you know.
Interesting. Okay, so you're speaking a lot to a playbook, a rule book that is, you know, distinct and signature to LinkedIn. What are some of the mistakes then that people bring to the platform? Because there might be some great Instagram creators, or even someone who dominates X, who then comes to LinkedIn, tries to bring some of the same strategy and doesn't see the results they want to see.
Yeah.
What are some of those mistakes that at least even you've seen through our clients as well?
We're big proponents of content strategies for the platform that you're, producing the content for. The unfortunate reality is that not everybody has the time, bandwidth, capacity, capabilities to produce 30 pieces of content for LinkedIn a month, 30 unique pieces of content for it. And I'm within that as well. Now, I've built my frameworks, I've built my operational structures through our AOS process, and I have a content engine where I have a backlog of content for the next month, to be honest. I can be reactive in the moment if I need to be, but I have at least 30 days worth of content backed up at all times, ready to go. Now, with that said, though we're taking what I would argue is a platform-specific strategy by taking that content and twisting it, like I mentioned earlier, where I'll still create a 1,500-word breakdown that's interesting and informative, etc., to accompany my video, it's still taking the pre-existing video that was shot for Instagram or that was shot for YouTube Shorts or whatever it might be. And I think that's one of the first sort of things that I would focus on here. If you can look at LinkedIn as its own platform, which it is, and therefore honor it enough to give it a strategy and a playbook that is specific to that, you will succeed proportionately more than those that don't. And the reality is I can point to a number of creators in my space, even Chris Donnelly, Matt Gray, Lara Costa. There's loads of examples where they're huge on LinkedIn and they're not as big on other platforms, and it's for that very reason. Their content is LinkedIn first and they're repurposing for other platforms, which sure, there's a trickle on, and generally speaking, I do believe this because we've seen it so many times. A good piece of content that like a sparkler piece of content that goes viral on one of the platforms, for the most part, does still perform on other platforms as well. Like you don't want to fall
not to the same extent, but yes.
But still, typically, it becomes an outlier, even if it's to a smaller proportion. And we've seen that with so many clients. It'll go mega viral on one platform, but it will still perform disproportionately well on the other platforms as well. For the most part, not always, but of course it always comes back to like, what do you have the capabilities, time?
Well, you can still choose your primary platform, right? We always recommend that because sometimes certain messaging, as you're saying, will resonate with certain audiences more, especially if you're trying to speak to a business-oriented audience. Then maybe it is more LinkedIn, maybe it's more Instagram than TikTok, though again, as you're saying, TikTok's nature is changing too. So you can still have your primary platforms, but at the same time, as you're saying, it's being aware that you can repurpose that content in different ways across these channels, still be on them, still capitalize on those opportunities to get some messaging out there, even if you're not posting to the recommended posting cadence on certain platforms. It's not to say that you still shouldn't be looking for opportunities to cross-pollinate.
100%.
Because you will miss them if you don't otherwise.
Yeah, 100%. I think the other thing, because I want to at least give a couple sort of problems or things that people run into. Another clear one is, though it has been primarily a business-first platform, what we're seeing is a lot of people still falling into the trap of thinking that they should post from a business page. And the truth is, I touched on it briefly earlier, but the truth is, like, people buy from people. You just will not get that same level of engagement. And I think that leads to people getting disheartened because they're not getting the results that they thought they would. But again, it comes to them playing by a different set of rules, and they don't even realize that they're doing it. It's like, you're not adhering to the rule book of this platform. Yes, business is a core part of it, but it's more of a shop front. It's more of a, like, people will go to your business page to see how many employees you have, to see if there's job listings available if they're interested in what. But it's
like functional and purpose.
Exactly. The real kind of signal is coming from the personal side. The easiest way to look at it is through the Sparkler Bonfire framework of saying, like, the personal is the sparkler, right? That will lead into, and I see it on mine. It's quite an interesting platform because you can often see what type of people, even the people that are looking at your page and checking it out. And so it's
True, you don't have that luxury on other platforms necessarily, unless you're to dig into your followers.
Yeah.
But the fact is, you're getting notifications of exactly the job type, the category they exist in all the time. That's a lot of feedback.
Yeah, your experience, where you worked prior. And I think a lot of that is to the incentive of doing it, and it works on LinkedIn, because on other platforms, 9 times out of 10, it is probably for creepy reasons that people are checking out quietly. They've created a sub account that you wouldn't even know is them. And you hear all these stories, but the reality is often it is because there is no professional, for the most part, component to those platforms. It almost, again, going back to the culture,
driven.
It lends itself to that. Whereas there's value in knowing that a prospective employer just checked out your page and looked at your experience. And it's like, oh, wow, this person looked at my page. That now makes more sense for me to now reach out to them and say, hey, given that you might be hiring, or it depends on obviously the actual reasoning that you're looking for.
You can see your distinct like connection
Yeah.
and ability to associate more. It's interesting because a lot of what you're saying, the through line is going back to first principles thinking. Like you're saying, do I post through my company page or do I post through my personal page? Or how do humans connect with anything? Go for the personal. Same again with when you were talking about, okay, I bring my video from Instagram across to LinkedIn, but then I also make sure I hit that, you know, kind of goal word count and actually make sure there's a passage of text for people who want to read the journey and read the narrative as opposed to just watching the video. And you can even see the way the platform feeds into that. And that's first principles thinking. There is equal space given to the video as there is to the text. In fact, the text is still sitting above the video a lot of the time. So it's like seeing that and going, okay, there is clearly equal value in this platform given to text versus the visual. Not the same on Instagram. You have to click read more.
TikTok,
clearly, yes.
YouTube Shorts. I can't even find the description half the time on YouTube Shorts.
Go. So it's sometimes just really seeing those clear platform features. They're there to tell you how to behave. They're not trying to deceive you. It's right there in front of you.
100%. And the last one I'll give, and then we can move on to our next part here, is treating it, what we often see is people treating it almost like X, right? We say about being platform specific. I think if you're going to compare two, a lot of the time people will oh, it's either LinkedIn or X, right? They'll half try and pair those two. Now, the strategy on X is a lot more randomized. It really is. Like, it's in the moment. I had this thought. Yeah. It's short. It's sweet. Sometimes it's a vent or a quote or a this or a that. And it's a lot more randomized, I think, where LinkedIn is a lot more purposeful. And the fact that the character count is so much higher, even in a way that it's expected on LinkedIn, again lends itself to that. It's all there in front of you. Like, you're absolutely right. Like, they're not hiding the way they want you to behave on that platform. And so it's seeing that, recognizing it, and then leveraging that into your strategy.
Awesome. So I guess now the question I want to ask is, how do you win on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I mean, it's compounding what we've just talked about. It really is. I think consistency wins. Unfortunately, that's just the fact of the matter on everything now. There's 1 billion users on there. You're not competing with one or two people. And bear in mind, that's just on the platform. You're still competing with all of the other platforms just to get the attention at that moment that you're looking for. So I think number one is consistency. I found that, I do now have multiple pieces of content that have 1 million plus reach and impressions and engagement. I also have a ton of content on there that have 100 or 10, right? Like, not every single one is a hit. And also you've got to back into what is success to you on the platform. Now, for me, it's always going to be around developing authority in my space, and being known as the expert that I am. And so for that purpose, when you say, hey, what does success look like? Success to one person might be landing a job that they've been looking for. Success to another person might be landing a hire that they were looking for. Like, we've had it even on our business where someone has found our page on LinkedIn and reached out to work at our company because they were like, holy crap, you did this, you did that. Now, that came through sharing case studies. So success...
You see that all the time still, right? Where people are maybe pining for a certain job. It has a certain title. Therefore, they shift the majority of their LinkedIn profile to fit that title, that specific, maybe look even, to cater for that kind of journey they want to go on. So I suppose there is still, quite a variation in how people are using the platform, even though it tends to be a bit more professional. There's a lot of different avenues to how that can play out.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's, again, part of playing the game, right? The game is there for you to play. Just make sure you understand the rule book. It's all in front of you. Like, it's not written down, but it's not a secret either. I think another great thing for people to lean into when they structure their content series is, number one, this is like a very, very in the weeds, but relevant, right? Where you're leading with text-based posts, and it's not always that. Infographics perform really well. There's lots of varying formats that perform, and we'll get into some of those examples. But where you are leading with text, or even if you're having text accompanying a visual, the first two lines are what populate. So again, look at the platform. It's not hidden, right? This isn't a secret. Just scroll for 10 seconds and you will see
what
that.
you look at.
100%.
Where does your eye land?
Yeah. And so if all you're seeing is that first two lines, that's your opportunity for your break content, right? That's how you're going to stop the scroll, with those two lines. So you better make sure that those opening two lines are contrarian or curiosity developing, or, bold, or, whatever it might be. That's your hook. That is your opportunity of a hook. And so a lot of people, it is in the weeds, but it's the most fundamental thing that I see people make a mistake on every day, where they've got this beautiful body of text that was very informative and super, but no one even clicked the three dots to expand the text to even get to read it, because that first two lines was so weak. So again, play by the game, play by the rules on the platform, make those first two lines incredibly powerful, with some curiosity that's going to make someone want to click the three lines, expand the text, and then be able to read the body.
It's almost like making a promise up front, right? Of, here's the value I'm about to give you if you stick around.
Yeah, exactly that.
You see things like, I fired my best employee or something, and immediately you're like, what? Why? And then I'm hooked.
And you can go a layer deeper. I fired my best employee. It was the worst decision I ever made, ... or it was the best decision I ever made, ... Like, you can create...
But don't give it all away.
Why was it the best? He just said it was his best employee, and
this doesn't make sense. I'm confused.
Yeah. So that's what you're trying to create with LinkedIn. But again, the other piggyback to that in terms of success and stacking the cards and the odds in your favor for success is to then go a layer deeper, right? Like, actually provide value, and this comes back to what we speak to in terms of that signature series around signal space, right? What is the signal that you're trying to communicate? And I think that's the other thing that I've found is the beauty of what I've managed to do with the posts that the sparkler content that have gone viral for me is that they're still within my niche, in my market, in my industry. It's still what I want to be known for. I'm breaking down phenomenal examples of marketing case studies or expertise, or playbooks that brands have used to succeed across marketing in general, which is absolutely what I want to be known for. And then leveraging the authority around leverage of social.
And that's when virality is a win. Because
100%.
Often we talk about, the sparkler versus bonfire and the difference in that nature of content. One is trying to bring people in. One is actually giving them a reason to stay. But a lot of the time when we seek the bringing people in part, we go for that virality that might be a complete kind of outlier from what we're actually talking about, because we see what's working in the space and we go, I could do that. That's a trend I could do, but it doesn't actually tie in any valuable way to the rest of what you're talking about, or again, what you're trying to build authority in. So I suppose that same theory is, it comes to fruition in every platform, but it definitely is here, where you're making sure that even your sparkler series in this instance still very much ties to your main line of content. So people who come in through that want to stay.
Yeah.
It's an easy jump to the rest of your content.
There is an argument that you could make on other platforms that if you have a sparkler piece of content that goes viral and it's not deeply rooted in your bonfire core messaging series and pillar, that it still can provide some value, because it brings those top of funnel just eyeballs into your page, and some of them may by osmosis sprinkle through into your other areas of content. I would argue that on LinkedIn it is about as far away from beneficial as you could be, because that is your authority page, it's your authority platform, it's as close to the business side of things as you're ever going to get. And with that, you're absolutely right. It's so important to make sure that each piece of content actually ties into what you want to be known for, what you do, who you are, what you represent, it from a professional standpoint.
You'd be diluting your message, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
And your stance in general.
On
losing trust.
Yeah, on other platforms, you can get away with showing your wedding, your family, your this, and somehow it's still going to tie into the personal brand and be like, you know what a great guy, I still want to work with him. On LinkedIn, I think it's very much less so. It's not to say you can't. Like at the end of the day, rules are meant to be at least bent at all times, but I think on that platform, more than anything, it's going to be so contrarian to everything else, and therefore what's expected, and therefore the cultural sentiment around not just the platform, but your page and what you've built.
And if I've ever seen personal moments, I must say, it's always tied back to how that value then applies to their work.
100%.
So it's what my wedding taught me about how to run a team or manage a team, you know? So it's always coming back to the value that they've said they're going to provide their audience here. It's not suddenly, I've got wedding lessons, you know?
Couldn't agree more. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I've seen some really funny memes around it. There's a comedian where he breaks it. He goes, hello, mate. Yeah. Oh, no, I was just calling because I just saw your post on LinkedIn about how that tragic hurricane really made you think about business turmoil. And I just, no, it wasn't insensitive at all. No one thought that. It was so on point. Anyway, I just thought I'd tell you that. Yeah. Teamwork and business building, mate. Perfect tie-in. It's just that is gold. But the reason it's funny is because there's some truth.
Well, people
to the
obviously
sentiment.
play with that, line, and it's a strategy. When it works really well. But there are going to be some people who pull that.
Yeah. Tone deaf. No, it wasn't tone deaf at all. But people passed away. Yeah, but that happens in business. It's
unexpected things.
Yeah. No, it's brilliant. But there's truth to it. Hence why it's so funny, because again, you're playing by the rules of the platform. So I think going back to the consistency side of things, it is a platform that you can get away with posting a little bit less on. I will say that. I don't think you need to be showing up every single day with a piece of content.
It's going to be a relief for a lot of people.
Yeah, probably. I would say you don't want to be under 3 or 4 times a week, though. And arguably, if you can be every day, be every day. I don't think you, at least in my experience, I haven't been penalized for volume and consistency. The other really interesting thing on LinkedIn that I like a lot is the engagement side of things that shows up. So in my experience, engaging on other posts on Instagram, whilst it can still be beneficial for you and your profile and things of that nature, it is disproportionately more beneficial on LinkedIn. So the way that the home page populates for you is that it shows you content from people that you're interested in and follow, but it also shows you content that people that you follow commented on.
Interesting.
So
once again, the platform is telling you what to do.
100%. So you can curate your page based on who you follow and engage with yourself. And that's where you start to see these networks form and these almost community groups without even being in the same community, or at least knowing, right? I didn't subscribe to the social media business group, yet because I engage with other social media agency co-founders and things of that nature, when they comment on a post, it populates on my feed. And by the nature of that, I'm going to be interested in it because it's in my space. So I found that be a really interesting play and has already proven incredibly beneficial in a number of different ways. We've had some instances where we've actually hired people off of a post that another agency owner engaged with and said, hey, we don't have a position open right now, but if any of my other agency owner friends do, I'll let you know. They didn't even have to tag me or anything. That post got populated on my page, and I was like, yeah, well, we're always hiring, so let me reach out. And in that instance, it worked out great. So there's a lot of other ways for you to win than necessarily just by creating content, because if you're the person that's created a very thought-provoking, informative, useful, whatever comment on someone else's page, that too will hopefully then populate by osmosis and keep that flywheel moving.
Awesome. Well, I'm inspired to ramp up my LinkedIn strategy. I know you said to me recently that you feel like the organic reach on LinkedIn has been at a high. It's dropping off already. That's why people have been capitalizing on it in this moment in time. I guess what would you say to people who are finding this right now? Is now the time?
Yeah, the answer is yes. Of course it is. I think with some caution, right? Like at all times, these things go through ebbs and flows. Like especially LinkedIn isn't new, right? X isn't new. It might have been repackaged, rebranded. Like these platforms typically at this point aren't new. And I think at this point, very few, if any, are gonna like break through and make real. Like Threads. Yes, sure, there's an audience there, but I don't think it took off and competed with X quite how they hoped it would. I mean, there's tons of examples that kind of come and go, but the big players are ebbing and flowing. And I think when you start to see people like us talking about it, it's probably actually getting to the point where it's peaking. Snap is another one famously right now that's like arguably underappreciated right now. It's huge. It's absolutely massive. Snapchat is... You have no idea. And it's not just kids using that platform. It's competing with WhatsApp at this point. It is a one-to-one or one-to-few small group communication platforms. People are using it to send messages. And it is somewhat slept on. But the more that people like us start communicating about it, as is happening, that too will start to peak and become saturated. And so that's just something that you've got to be aware of, you know, and LinkedIn definitely, I think a lot of people are talking about it right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how much further that ceiling will go. But who knows? I mean, there's absolutely...
But if you're not on it, you don't get to be there for...
No, and there's also just no two ways around it. You absolutely should be leveraging it, especially if you're in the business space, no matter what industry you're in, you absolutely should be leveraging LinkedIn.